Welcome back, guys. What you're about to listen to is an episode of the Four Fires podcast that was recorded at the local area director retreat down in Gulf Shores, Alabama, back on February 16th through 18th, 2024. If you're wondering what a local area director is, that's a man who's volunteering his time to join in with the Four Fires nonprofit and help us build the army of four-dimensional men in the city that they live. If that sounds interesting to you and that you might want to join in on that team of local area directors, send me an email at info@4-fires.com. You can also find that email in the description. And for the next 4 episodes, including this one, we're going to be hitting all 4 fires. I hope you enjoy, and be sure to share this podcast with someone you know. Thanks so much.
Welcome to the Four Fires podcast, where we talk about winning in all 4 of the essential areas of life.
Well, welcome back to the Four Fires podcast. Today I have the honor of speaking with 3 really cool guys that are part of our team of local area directors with the Four Fires tribe. And so today I've got Sean Vernamo, Tyler Toma, and Benjamin Williams. And so we're down at the first ever local area director retreat down in Gulf Shores. And so I'm really thankful to have some time with these men to share vision and have some time of accountability and for us all to grow with one another, and thankful that they're willing to share some wisdom with you, the listener. And so we got a list of questions here that we're gonna dive into. But first, I'm gonna let us go through and do a little round of introduction so that you guys know who you're listening to. So, Benjamin, why don't you give us a little intro?
All right. What's up, guys? I am Benjamin Williams from Noonan, Georgia. I'm 22 and work at Harbinger Marketing, full service marketing firm in Tyrone, Georgia. Yeah.
All right, Tyler.
Hello. Tyler Toma. I am a husband and father to 2 little boys, Easton and Colton. I am a lawyer by trade, so, withhold judgment just for now. And I'm excited to be here with everybody and chatting with these awesome guys and hopefully building the Four Fires Army and making a real impact in the world.
Love it.
So I'm Sean Vernamo. I am a husband, father, business owner, and I'm the old guy in the group here. I'm 54, and I've got these young guys around me who are hopefully keeping me young. And I'm glad to be here with these folks and looking to make an impact on both, my professional career, my personal life, and my community.
Cool. And you guys have heard my voice before. I'm Jeff Rice. I'm 24 years old, and really thankful that I have other men in my life, like these 3 guys sitting here with me today, that have a growth mindset and that are concerned about becoming the man that God created them to be, and then helping their sons and other men in their lives become the men that God created them to be. The first question that I wanted to ask and dig into is, how has living into the Four Fires impacted your life or the people in your life? So last night we kind of dug in a little bit about how long you guys have all been living into it, and some of us a little bit longer than others. But anybody want to take a swing at that question? Like, what's been the biggest thing that you feel like has changed, or how the Four Fires has impacted your life?
Well, I think the Four Fires gives a framework. As we're all going through this journey we call life, we are looking for answers. We're trying to figure and find our way through this. And the Four Fires gives a vocabulary to the framework so that we can understand and communicate among men what we're actually feeling, what we're thinking, and what we're talking about, so that we can help support each other and go, guys, I've been there. I understand. This is the struggle. I've been down this road, and here's what you're facing. I get it. And here's some things that can help kind of get you over that hurdle and around that obstacle and further down that path.
I'll piggyback on a word we talked about yesterday, which was ownership. And when we're talking about how the Four Fires has impacted me personally, I'll speak to myself personally, is it's impossible, or I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's extremely difficult to teach or show other men what we should be emulating if we're not doing it ourselves. You can't have an obese dietitian. You can't have, a morally corrupt pastor, at least not in the authentic sense. So the way that it's impacted me is more so than just fixating on fixing the other men around me. It has to be an inward looking first, and actually jumping into the Four Fires and staying cognizant of what we're trying to do is really what's made an impact on me, is more so than looking at the problems around me, whether it's the issues I see in society or the issue amongst men in general. It's more of thinking about how can I be that emulation, and how can I be that example, using the Four Fires framework to make myself better, to hopefully one day impact and be an example for the men that look at me.
That's good.
Yeah, I think for me, the Four Fires has brought awareness to these different areas of my life, which has allowed me to then take ownership, because you can't take ownership of the different areas without awareness of the areas that you're falling short in. So taking the Four Fires assessment and seeing the numbers of the areas where, I'm clearly falling short of where I want to be, or where I should be, has been helpful for me to then prioritize and refocus where I need to be putting my time and energy and effort.
Yeah.
So just that awareness of what I should be focusing on.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, I think that the biggest area that I immediately saw 2.5 years ago or so when I first started, or 2 years ago when I first got introduced to the Four Fires, it really impacted my marriage. And we talked a little bit ago, off air, I guess, about what it is that our wives are, say at least most wives expect for the man to lead and take charge, and just Sean, your line was our wives want to hear, "I got this, honey," and that's what our wives want from us. And so for me, I was not being that sort of man for my wife when I first got married. I was very passive and just living in a victim mindset and not taking ownership, like you said, Tyler. And so what the Four Fires did, I think, simply for my marriage was it helped me become aware, and then take ownership, and then start becoming this man who was then leading his wife, and I wanted respect, but then at the beginning of my marriage, I wasn't doing anything that was respectable. So I was demanding and expecting something that I really didn't deserve from my wife. So it really helped me to see and identify, like you said, Benjamin, the awareness of like, that's what I need to be doing to be deserving of respect. And so I think the Four Fires really has just impacted my marriage more than anything. So that's been and I have really great feedback from my wife, so that's how I can prove that it's impacted my marriage. So that's really cool for me. So one of the comments that I hear a lot is, if I could find the time to do this or that, or there's not enough time to do this or that. That's just something I hear, sort of like that victim mentality, like, man, I can't do that. If I could find the time. So when you guys feel time crunched, what are your practices to make sure that you're still hitting all Four Fires on, we can't hit all Four Fires every single day. Like, you're not going to crush it every single day, but I like to think about, I need to be hitting at least all Four Fires on at least a weekly basis. So when you guys are time crunched, what are you, Tyler, last night you shared a little bit about you're working out, and like you found a gym that has childcare. So I'll let you guys share, like, what are the things that you do to live intentionally to make sure you're hitting all four areas?
So I'll jump in on this one. So I have 2 kids under the age of 2, and husband, got the duties at home, broken water faucets, running a law firm, so all these things, right? So number one, it's easier said than done, but obviously setting the schedule. If you can get on some type of regimen, it's easier. The psychology is behind that. If you can start doing something in a regimented fashion over 7 days, turns into a month, turns into a habit. The habit's where you obviously want to be at. I will also say this, and I tell folks this all the time, especially men. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It just is. You're genetically designed. You are predisposed to be able to handle it. Whether it's a lack of sleep, whether it's a lack of patience, whether it's a lack of whatever it is. If you've got to go to the gym at 5 a.m. so that you can get the rest of your day done, okay, fine. Getting up early, it can suck. Do it. Or if you are too busy during the day and you've got to take the time at night, go into the office, or flip off the TV, give up Netflix for a little while to take care of other things that you need to do, whether it's reading your Bible, whether it's getting to the gym, whether it's talking with your wife or spending the time. Do it. You're okay. I promise. Getting into that victimized, I don't have enough time, that's the killer. Because it's and I've heard it described as a dragon eating its own tail. It's, I have too much to do, therefore I can't do everything, and I don't do everything, therefore I'm a victim. When in reality, it's just a circle, when in reality, if you would just take the uncomfortable for a little while, do what you're supposed to do, sleep a little less, watch a little less TV, get off the Xbox, go be the man that you're supposed to be, and be uncomfortable doing it, you're going to be fine. Yeah. And you're going to be a better person for it.
To piggyback a little bit on that, and I think you're absolutely right, forming those habits, and putting down the Netflix, and getting up early and taking ownership of your schedule. Because we all have the same 24 hours in a day. You can't make time. But what you can control is how you schedule your time. And being uncomfortable, at least initially, because anything new is hard. And so as you take ownership of your schedule and you start to block time out to do things, yes, there's the inevitable stuff will happen and things will pop up. As a business owner, there's always a fire that you've got to go put out. But okay, so I missed something today. I know I'll be back on schedule tomorrow. And so what you see is consistency over the long run. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon. This is getting up and training every day. You've got to do the work. And yeah, you're right. It's absolutely uncomfortable, particularly when it's new. And all of a sudden you've gone from being a very passive, I'm just letting life float by, to, okay, I'm taking control of me, and I'm taking control of my schedule, and I'm going to form good habits. And I think that's the hard part. And a lot of folks with the victim mentality particularly is, oh, it's just too hard. You don't got to like it. You just got to do it.
That's good. Alan told me recently was he had a conversation with one of his coaching clients, and just the phrase that they landed on was, if you work on your professional fire, which is the area that most men naturally gravitate to dumping most of their logs on, because men are supposed to go provide for their family, and it's fun to go win the game. We talked about if you're an athlete or you're whatever it is that you did in your younger years, the game of life and business and making money is ultimately most of the time the game that men fall into. And it's a great place to express your competitiveness, and it's a great thing. But the comment that Alan told me was, if you work on your professional fire, you can make a living. But if you work on all four fires, you can make a life. And thinking about the wholeness and the health and the function as opposed to dysfunction that you'll experience in your life when you're working on making a life and not just making a living with your professional fire. It's just a different sort of motivation for me when thinking about, oh man, four fires is hard, man. I'm tired. I don't want to get up and go work out. So it's just my motivation is not, I know I have these four areas I need to put time and energy into them. It's no, I want to make my life something that's really enjoyable and fulfilling for me. I don't want any dysfunction. So that's just I don't know, just a little bit different perspective shift on what I do when I feel like I'm time crunched. It's not, I don't look at, oh, this is hard. I look at, yeah, this is hard, and I'm about to make something awesome out of my life because I'm going to do these hard things. Next question is, what do you guys feel like are the key ingredients for having an amazing marriage? So we have, I'm married with no kids, married for 2.5 years. Tyler, you've been married for a few years.
Almost 5, yeah.
Almost 5 with 2 young kids. And Sean, you've been married for longer than 5 years.
Just a tad.
Yeah.
Coming up on 30 years.
Right. And you have adult children.
I have a single adult son,
Yeah,
25.
So there's 3 of us that are married, but we're all in different stages. So I'm just curious to hear from different stages of life. And Benjamin, you're not married, but maybe you have some great marriage advice that you've heard or read. But anyway, I want to get some, what are the key ingredients to having an amazing marriage?
So the one thing that I had always heard growing up from who I perceived as smart people, they are smart people, was the key to a great marriage is lowering expectations. And I always thought there was some validity to that. The older I get, though, I'm not 100% sure. I would say the key to a good marriage, you heard the over-commercialization of I am second. It's used, mm-hmm. You see them on the T-shirts and things like that.
Yeah.
That's a mindset that I take quite a bit, which is it's not a dehumanization of myself or a demasculization of myself, but simply a mindset of, look, you're a man, you can handle it. You're just not, you're important. Mm-hmm. You are not the purpose, or you are not the importance. That's helped me, at least, in a lot of facets. It covers up a lot of my other inadequacies, I guess we'll say. But taking a mindset of a servant role in the marriage, I've got this, I'll take care of it. I don't need. We all need, but waking up thinking about what do I need or what do I not have in terms of the marriage is probably not a great mindset to have.
Right. Mm-hmm. Maybe there was more context to the lower your expectations. I think it's more of voice. If you have expectations, voice them, because unmet expectations are unvoiced unmet expectations.
And that was the context was, if you don't wake up every day expecting, you can't be disappointed. So in theory, it works nicely, but also it doesn't require you to meet any type of standard. It doesn't have your spouse meet any type of standard, and therefore you're still you don't have any growth. Mm-hmm. You don't have any expansion.
Right.
And if you're operating in life to just not be disappointed, well, where's the inverse of that? Where's the greatness that you're actually achieving?
Well, and to add to that, talking about the greatness, every great thing takes effort. And so many times as men, we're pursuing a lady, we're trying to get the number for the first date, and we succeed and get the first date. Now we're trying to get the second date, and eventually we're fairly successful at getting multiple dates. And then we reach that decision that we think this is somebody we want to spend the rest of our lives with, and then we ask this person to marry us, and we succeed and we get married. We have made all of that effort up to this point to achieve something, and then so many marriages today, people stop. The men stop. Anything great takes effort. So having been married to my better half for 30 years, 3 decades, it takes effort every day to make something great. Don't stop the pursuit. Don't stop the nurturing. Don't stop trying and putting in the effort and, yes, the work to make that great. Nothing great comes easy. If it was easy, everybody would have it, right? If you want something great, you got to make the effort. You got to work for it. Mm-hmm. And so too many times, I think young men, freshly married, in that early stages, they hit that rough patch a couple of years in, because all of a sudden the things that were cute that you thought were endearing about your spouse now drive you absolutely bonkers and you can't handle it anymore, that's when the real work begins. That's when you have to accept and then begin the effort. So as you go through that stage, understand that don't quit, make the effort, because I can tell you from the backside of 3 decades, it's much better here. When you finally connect and you and your partner are in sync, life is great.
Yeah. One of the things I'm thinking of is my wife and I. So what I'm about to say, I think it applies definitely to people who are dating or not dating anyone yet, or they're engaged, they're just thinking about getting married, or even if you are married, I think this applies because it's just a simple choice. But my wife and I was very lucky Rachel and I have always, well, not always, most of the time, and even now definitely we're, I would say almost 100% on the same page with everything, which is a real blessing. But when we were dating, we just like clearly stated before we were even talking about marriage, like if we get married, divorce is not an option. And so like just the commitment to the marriage even before it starts, but even if you are married, I think you could like choose today to have that conversation with your spouse and say like, hey, I'm in this for life. Like divorce is not even an option for me. So I think that was a big thing for Rachel and I, because we went into it like, no, this is my decision, and these vows that I gave you actually mean something, till death do us part, for better or for worse. And then another thing that was what I feel like is a key ingredient to an amazing marriage was, so Alan recommended that I read a book called His Needs, Her Needs it's by, I think the guy's name is Willard Harvey or something like that. But the book talks about that men and women, we're different most of the time. The book lists 10 emotional needs. Most of the time, 5 of them are masculine. Most of the time, 5 of them are feminine. And most of the time, that the man and the wife are complete opposite. And so the things that I feel are important, things that I need met from my wife, she's going to see those as the least important, that means something to her, and vice versa is true. The opposite is true. And so when I read that book, it just gave me a perspective of like, oh, we are different. Like we talked about the other book, Men are from
Mars, Women are from Venus.
Like we're different. And so just understanding that helped me see, oh, that's what it means to die to yourself and like Scripture says, love and cherish your wife and give yourself up for her as Christ did the church. I was like, oh, okay, I see what that means, because I have to choose that what's important to Rachel is important, and like that is super easy to say and really hard to do because Rachel's emotional needs, like full transparency, sometimes I feel like I don't need that at all, but I love you, Rachel, and so I'm choosing to meet these needs for you. So the big one for her is intimate conversation and open and honest communication. And so I'm not perfect, but like I choose, like that is the most important thing for her, for me. She's going to feel loved when I prioritize that emotional need over my emotional need. And I think what I got also from the book was that I read the 10 emotional needs. I'm like, yeah, I need those things met by my wife. Yeah, that's true. I want those things met. But then where Scripture tells us that the man is the leader of the household and the head of the household, and he's supposed to lead, I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. I know my 5 emotional needs and Rachel has hers, but I cannot expect her to meet mine until I meet hers first. If I'm going to sit back and say, well, I'm not talking to you and have an open and honest communication because you haven't told me I have big muscles today. So the man is supposed to lead. So it's the choosing the uncomfortable situation and like doing the thing you know you're supposed to do. I give myself up and die to myself and lay myself down like Christ did the church for my wife. So I choose to meet hers first, and then what I found was when I do that, when I prioritize Rachel, and I'm not perfect all the time. In fact, I struggle a lot of times. But when I'm seeking to meet her emotional needs first, she meets my emotional needs better than I could have asked her to. Like she willingly will meet all those needs because then she feels loved, and so I just see it as that's what it means to lead as the man. So that's what I feel like at this point in my life, being married for 2.5 years at 24 years old, that those are some key ingredients to an amazing marriage. And I tell people, I have guys from college that will talk, and they're like, man, how's the married life? Like, you've been married for a little while. And I'm like, marriage is amazing if you make it amazing. Like, the happily ever after, like, that's all bull. That's BS. Like, that doesn't, it's only going to be amazing if you make it amazing. And it's intentionality.
Well, and you talked about the leadership. What you described was servant leadership.
That's right.
You know, it's not my way, highway, I'm in charge, do what I say. It's servant leadership. Yes, you are leading, but you're leading from a position of I'm here to serve.
Right.
And so by you addressing her needs and willing to, as you had mentioned, put yourself second, right? Yes, I might be the person that's responsible. Let's talk about leadership is simply responsibility to see that it is getting done. And you take that servant leadership where you're saying, I'm willing to be second and put her needs and take care of her, and we'll go from there.
Yep.
Well, one thing I want to add, it was an interesting conversation I had with an attorney a few months ago who's done thousands of divorces. It's his area of practice. The attorney who's handled thousands of divorces, it's pretty easy. There's stats on it. What are the causes of divorce? That's not really the important question that I had for him. My question was, what is the most rampant attribute that you see amongst divorced couples? His number one answer was immaturity. Immaturity, not just in the sense that you act like a 20-year-old when you're 40, but it is an immaturity with regards to either a love of self, it is a disbelief that this world is here to serve you and you are not to serve it or the people around you. It is a immaturity with regards to what your duty is as a man. And we were speaking this from a man's context, because in his belief, what he saw is that the marriages that fall apart are usually started by an immature man. And it stuck with me, because marriage is not, we see the stats. Younger people are getting married at significantly less rates, having less kids, because insert whatever reason you want here, but a lot of it is that sounds like a lot of work. I'm not comfortable not being served or being placated to or being pampered, but it stuck with me because their immaturity means a lot of different things, but immaturity is at its basis a reversion back to a kid's status. That's what we're talking about. And as a 10-year-old, no, you're not thinking about how I can serve the world. You're thinking about what time is Power Rangers on and somebody go get me a juice box, right? And it's not. So when we get older, and even after a marriage of 10, 20, 30 years, there can still be a reversion back, because like we talked about, it is a nonstop ongoing marathon that we always have to, but a reversion back to immaturity status. It deteriorates marriages.
Right.
But I thought it was interesting that the one word he used was immaturity.
Wow.
And it usually starts with a man, and then as the leader of the household, it just metastasizes to the rest of the house and ultimately your marriage. And at which point both people get to the point and say, I don't like you. I married you. I lived in the same house with you for 20 years. We raised 3 kids together. We had a lot of great times, went to Europe. I hate you. That doesn't just happen in a vacuum.
Right. Wow. I think that's directly correlated to the servant heart. So if you're immature, you're not going to have a servant's heart. So for those 2 of us sitting at the table, or 2 of you with kids, what's your greatest parenting advice?
Wow, that's
a hefty question.
I actually think we touched on it last night.
Yeah.
Be there, be present. Yeah. I know that one gets thrown around a lot, but like we talked about last night, you want to give your quote about how kids spell?
My dad, shout out to my dad. He always says kids spell love Time. So that's the line.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted you to talk about our discussion about quality time with kids.
Yeah. Quantity has a quality all its own. And it's very hard to take a young child, 6, 7, 8, and say, I want to have quality time with that child. We're going to schedule it between 1 o'clock and 1:15, and we're going to have 15 minutes of great quality time. This is an 8-year-old.
They don't understand.
Yeah, their plan isn't your plan. And, as you mentioned, Power Rangers is on, and they don't want anything to do with you for the next 30 minutes.
You mean you're not the Red Ranger?
Yeah, exactly. You are not. And so for young children particularly, when they're coming up, you have to put in quantity with them. And then the quality is a result of the quantity.
Right.
And so you're present, as we were discussing earlier. Being present for your children is 95% of the battle, right? They want to know that they're there, that you're there, that it's a safe environment, that they feel loved, and that they know, hey, Dad, can you fix this? Dad, can you take care of this? And Dad's there to do that. That comes back, again, you're a servant leader, and you're responsible for these young children. And then as they grow and they become young adults and then eventually adults, for those of you with older children, you'll understand that, dads particularly go from we are the heroes when they're young to dad is a complete idiot when they're teenagers to at 25 or 30, they go, oh, wait a minute, maybe Dad wasn't so dumb after all. So that's just the journey of life that we as fathers deal with. And the way that you get to the better side of the back of that is the quality and quantity that you've put in when they're young.
Yeah. Piggybacking off of that, my pro bono sector, my law practice is juvenile. And unfortunately, it's just horrific situations that you see with kids. And one thing you mentioned about security, the time that you spend with your kids, the more time you spend, the safer they feel. The safer they feel, the greater they grow. I mean, it just, and that's one thing I see with all the juvenile kids that I represent is almost always do the psych reports come back and say they've got abandonment issues. They have fear of, you've got little 4-year-olds who, when we're, a foster parent's dropping them off at daycare, they are petrified. They're not petrified because it's a new situation. They're petrified because they don't know if you're coming back. So, my experiences with younger kids, that's what I got. But the quantity of time covers a multitude of sins, for lack of a better word. They don't remember. I think my 2-year-old wanted to have a go-gurt fight on the white couch the other day. Just open the tab and let's just like Ben Stiller and Zoolander where they're having the
with the gas.
Having the gas fight. Yeah, right. He wanted to have it with a go-gurt stick, and it took it away, and he got mad at me. And 10 seconds later, he doesn't care because we're back to playing rodeo and throwing things at the wall. But he feels safe. He knows that he's not going to be cast out. He doesn't, and I don't ever want that to be a thought in his mind, which is, why does Dad not want to spend time with me? Or why does Dad not spend enough time with me? Even a smallest crack can, like we talked about earlier today, where those small cuts, you said you had a great dad. There's one little thing that one time really in the grand scheme of things doesn't really matter. But the intentionality of just be there, just be there.
Well, I feel like that's a summed up great answer. That's like, if you were going to do one thing as a parent, spend a lot of time with your kids. Yeah, that's good. I hope there was some gold in there that you can take and apply to your life and your People Fire. Be sure to tune in next week to hear a continued version of this conversation on a deep dive into the Purpose Fire. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to share this podcast with someone you know, and remember to live intentionally.